Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today we're exploring Angela Merkel, Freedom, co-written with Beate Baumann. This autobiography covers Merkel's life from her childhood in East Germany to her historic 16 years as Germany's first female chancellor. It's a remarkable story, spanning two distinct eras, dictatorship and democracy. Merkel's path from a pastor's daughter in the GDR to the highest political office in reunified Germany seems improbable, even fictional, as noted by a publishing contact in early 2022. The book begins with a pivotal moment. November 9, 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Merkel, then a 35-year-old physicist, joined the crowds celebrating at the Bornholm Bridge border crossing, even venturing into West Berlin for a brief taste of freedom. Yet she returned home that night, committed to her work. The next morning, she overheard border guards lamenting the loss of their justification for their existence. This sparked a question in Merkel's own mind. What now? What value would her education, skills, and experiences hold in a unified Germany? This question, according to Freedom, shaped her path forward. Part 1 describes Merkel's childhood and youth in East Germany. Born in Hamburg in 1954, her family relocated to Quitzow in Brandenburg when she was just 6 weeks old because her father, Horst Kastner, a pastor, felt called to serve the Protestant Church in East Germany. A few years later, they settled in Templin, where her father ran the ecclesiastical seminary. Merkel describes a happy childhood on the Waldhof estate, surrounded by nature, a close-knit community, and intellectual stimulation. She highlights the dichotomy between her family's private life, where open political discussions were common, and the public sphere, where caution and self-censorship were essential for survival. The family's regular receipt of Bruderhilfe packages from West German relatives, filled with Western goods, gave Merkel a tangible sense of the differences between the two Germanys. Merkel recounts her early education, including joining the Young Pioneers and later the Free German Youth, decisions made after careful consideration with her parents. She excelled academically, particularly in Russian, and participated in the Russian Olympiad, winning a trip to Moscow. This trip revealed to her the stark contrast between the restrictive environment of East Germany and the relative openness she observed in the Soviet Union. The Prague Spring of 1968, witnessed firsthand during a family holiday, profoundly impacted Merkel. The subsequent Soviet invasion shattered her youthful idealism and exposed the brutal realities of life under communist rule. She details her experiences at the Hermann Mattern School and her decision to study physics at Leipzig's Karl Marx University, a choice driven by her desire for academic rigor and the immutability of scientific facts. Merkel's university years presented both academic challenges and personal growth. She thrived in the intellectual environment, but also encountered the absurdities of mandatory Marxism-Leninism classes, even being ejected from a lecture for doing physics homework. This episode solidified her sense of the pettiness and paranoia of the East German state. Merkel describes her social life, organizing student discos, and traveling with friends to Eastern European countries. She met her first husband, Ulrich Merkel, at university, and they married in 1977. Her diploma project at the Academy of Sciences introduced her to a more critical intellectual circle in Leipzig, foreshadowing her later political engagement. After graduating with a master's degree in physics, Merkel faced the challenges of finding employment in East Germany. An interview for a doctoral position at the Technical University of Ilmenau exposed the pervasive influence of the Stasi. The university's interest in her centered not on her academic qualifications, but on her willingness to become an informant. She refused, jeopardizing her career prospects. Eventually, through connections at the Academy of Sciences, she secured a position at the Central Institute for Physical Chemistry in Berlin. She began her doctoral studies in theoretical chemistry, focusing on rate constants of chemical reactions. Part 2 recounts Merkel's entry into politics during the tumultuous period surrounding the fall of the Berlin Wall. She describes the initial euphoria followed by a growing sense of uncertainty about the future. The gloomy mood among some of her acquaintances, who lamented the end of East Germany's potential third way, contrasted sharply with her own optimism. A trip to Poland shortly after the wall came down reinforced Merkel's belief in the inevitability of German reunification. She found Polish colleagues already convinced of a rapid unification process, a view shared by few in Germany at the time. Merkel's search for a political home led her to Demokratischer Aufbruch, a newly formed political movement advocating for democratic reforms. She joined and quickly became involved in its transformation into a political party, even setting up donated computers at the party's headquarters. As the spokesperson for its Berlin branch, Merkel found herself thrust into the spotlight during the 1990 Volkskammer election campaign. She describes the chaotic atmosphere and the challenges of navigating the rapidly changing political landscape. The exposure of its chairman, Wolfgang Schnur, as a Stasi collaborator just days before the election left Merkel and her colleagues reeling. Despite the setback, she skillfully managed the ensuing press conference and reaffirmed its commitment to democratic principles. Following the disappointing election results, it merged with the CDU. Merkel became a member of the all-German CDU and was appointed deputy government spokesperson in Lothar de Maizier's government. She played a key role in the negotiations leading to German unification, and her detailed knowledge of East German legislation proved invaluable. Her experience with the Unification Treaty negotiations highlighted the complexities of merging two vastly different political and economic systems, and the challenges of representing East German interests. Merkel also details her involvement in the 2+4 talks with the four victorious powers of World War II, the US, UK, France, and the Soviet Union, and the negotiations leading to German reunification. She witnessed firsthand the diplomatic efforts of Hans-Dietrich Genscher, then West German foreign minister, and learned valuable lessons about the importance of clear communication and strategic vision in international negotiations. Part 3 focuses on Merkel's early political career in reunified Germany. After the unification ceremony on October 3, 1990, Merkel observed a former East German Volkspolizist now wearing a West Berlin police uniform. This seemingly minor detail brought home to her the magnitude of the task ahead, the true integration of two societies. Following the 1990 all-German elections, Merkel won a seat in the Bundestag and was appointed Minister for Women and Youth in Helmut Kohl's cabinet. She describes the challenges of Aufbau Ost, the reconstruction of East Germany, and the devastating impact of the Treuhandanstalt, the agency responsible for privatizing East German businesses. Her visits to struggling companies in the former East Germany exposed her to the harsh realities of economic transition and the human cost of unemployment. A broken leg in early 1992 led to a pivotal encounter. While recuperating, Merkel met Beate Baumann, who would become her longtime advisor and chief of staff. This meeting marked the beginning of a close professional partnership that would shape Merkel's political career. Merkel also recounts her experiences as environment minister, navigating the complexities of environmental policy and the contentious issue of nuclear energy. She describes the Castor transports, the shipment of highly radioactive waste to the Gorleben interim storage facility, and the fierce public opposition they sparked. Her efforts to reach a consensus on energy policy, including talks with anti-nuclear activists, highlighted the deep divisions in German society over nuclear power. Merkel's account of the CDU donation scandal in the late 1990s reveals her growing disillusionment with Helmut Kohl and her decision to publicly challenge his leadership. This bold move, articulated in a now famous article in the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, marked a turning point in her career and paved the way for her own rise to the top of the CDU. Part 4 covers Merkel's first 2 terms as chancellor. She describes her election in 2005 and the challenges of leading a grand coalition government with the SPD. Her initial focus was on domestic policy, tackling issues such as unemployment, social security reform, and promoting research and development. Merkel recounts the 2006 FIFA World Cup in Germany, which coincided with her first months in office. She describes her support for national coach Jürgen Klinsmann, whose unconventional methods and transatlantic lifestyle had sparked controversy. The tournament's success, culminating in Germany's third-place finish, became a symbol of national unity and optimism. The sources detail Merkel's growing involvement in European and international affairs. She hosted the 2007 G8 summit in Heiligendamm, focusing on climate change and global economic issues. Her relationship with U.S. President George W. Bush, despite their political differences, is portrayed as one of mutual respect and even playful banter. Merkel describes the onset of the global financial crisis in 2008 and the German government's efforts to stabilize the banking sector and protect jobs. Her account of the savings guarantee, the government's pledge to safeguard savers' deposits, highlights the importance of clear communication and decisive action in times of crisis. The euro crisis, which began in 2010 with Greece's financial woes, dominated Merkel's second term. She describes the difficult negotiations with European leaders, the creation of the bailout funds, and the challenges of balancing German interests with the need for European solidarity. Her insistence on fiscal discipline and structural reforms in the crisis-hit countries sparked controversy and earned her the nickname austerity queen in some parts of Europe. Merkel's account of the Ukraine crisis, which began in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea, reveals her deep concern about the escalating conflict and her efforts to find a diplomatic solution. She describes the Normandy format talks with Russia, Ukraine, and France, and the challenges of negotiating with Vladimir Putin. Her decision not to support Ukraine's and Georgia's NATO membership in 2008, while controversial, is presented as a pragmatic attempt to avoid further escalation with Russia. Part 5 focuses on Merkel's third and fourth terms, overshadowed by the refugee crisis and the rise of populism. She describes her decision in September 2015 to allow refugees stranded in Hungary to enter Germany, a move that sparked both widespread support and fierce criticism. The phrase, "Wir schaffen das," we can do this, intended as a message of reassurance and determination, became a rallying cry for both supporters and opponents of her refugee policy. Merkel details the challenges of managing the refugee crisis, including the reintroduction of border controls, negotiations with Turkey and other transit countries, and efforts to achieve a fair distribution of refugees within the European Union. She describes the rise of the far-right AfD party in Germany and the growing polarization of public discourse. The book also explores Merkel's approach to global politics, including her efforts to strengthen multilateral cooperation, promote free trade, and combat climate change. She describes her relationship with Donald Trump, whose America First policies and skepticism towards international agreements posed a significant challenge to her vision of an interconnected world. Merkel recounts the COVID-19 pandemic, which dominated the final years of her chancellorship. She describes the unprecedented measures taken to contain the virus, the economic and social consequences of lockdowns, and the challenges of leading a democracy in times of crisis. Her decision to deliver a televised address to the nation in March 2020, the first of its kind since German reunification, underscored the gravity of the situation. The final chapters deal with Merkel's decision to step down as CDU leader in 2018 and her retirement from politics in 2021. She reflects on her legacy and the values that guided her throughout her career. The purchase of a Kairos sculpture, a symbol of the opportune moment, represents her belief in the importance of timing in politics. Her farewell military tattoo, with its carefully chosen musical selections, marked the end of her 16 years as chancellor. The book concludes with Merkel's reflections on the meaning of freedom, a concept that has shaped both her personal and political life. Having experienced both dictatorship and democracy, she emphasizes the importance of individual liberty, social responsibility, and the need to defend democratic values against those who threaten them. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.